Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to public hearing on ordinances 1107 and 1108 concerning establishing the tax rates for fiscal year 2024 and establishing the water and sewer rates for fiscal year 2024. The date is May 8th, 2023. The time is now 6 o'clock p.m. We'll call the order. Council President Ringsager. Here. Councilmember Shenagas.
Here.
Councilmember Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson. Here. Councilmember Zinner. Councilmember Zinner is absent. Okay, we will start with a public hearing for ordinance 1107 concerning establishing tax rate for fiscal year 2024. This will be an ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre, Maryland, pursuant to the authority provided by the annotated Code of Maryland, Tax Property Article, Title VI, and the Local Government Article of the annotated Code of Maryland, fixing the tax rate for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024 on each $100 of assessable real property, personal property, and providing an additional special tax levied within the critical area special taxing district and setting the service charge for the semi-annual property tax payment option. Anyone in the audience here this evening to speak on ordinance 1107 concerning tax rates? Sir. Good evening and welcome, sir.
Kirk Smith, 840 Otsego, Havre, Maryland, 21078. I wanted to say that I thought it was wise that the mayor actually went with just a no increase but no decrease either. Our capital projects are building up, and I think it was a smart idea to just keep it as it is. That's it. I was just wanted to commend you, Mayor. It was a good thought, and I know the city's backing you, so good job, sir. I love Plaid.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak? Anybody, any comments from the council on ordinance 1107? Okay, without any further comments from the public, I now close public hearing on ordinance 1107. The time is 6:03. We'll move on to public hearing on ordinance number 1108 concerning establishing water and sewer rates for fiscal year 2024. An ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution and Local Government Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Sections 33 and 34 of the Havre City Charter, City Code, Chapter 196, and the exhibit thereto establishing the city water and sewer rates and service participation fees for the users of the city water and sewer system. Are there any members in the audience who wish to speak on ordinance 1108? Sir. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Kirk Smith, 840 Otsego Street, Havre de Grace, Maryland, 21078. I have some observations, some questions. They may go to the Director of Administration or the Director of Finance. I am not the smartest person in this room. I look up and I see people with master's degrees, MBAs, the chief, criminal sciences, somebody with dual masters. As a matter of fact, I look around, I'm probably not the smartest person in the room. I'm probably the least intellectual person in the room. Having prefaced that, I have some questions, especially on the water stuff, and maybe a little bit on the sewer stuff too. And I see that the water production revenues are expected to come up $400K, and that's from the, I'm guessing we're not counting Aberdeen paying for water yet, because that number would be shy. So that's with the city increase of 10%, or roughly 10%? That make sense?
It actually does include from Aberdeen. We
Oh.
anticipate from Aberdeen.
Is your mic on, George?
Sorry.
Thanks, George.
Sure. It actually does include some volume from Aberdeen in the water side. The latest news we got from the officials at Aberdeen was sometime late in the fiscal year, maybe the last quarter, maybe a little bit before, they intend to ramp up and start doing. So it does include an estimate of some late in the year Aberdeen addition.
Excellent. Water production cost is estimated to go up 50K. So, is that because of that also?
Combination of that and rising prices.
Yeah,
Chemicals
we did
and
cover that a
chemicals,
little bit.
utilities, those kinds of things.
Which brings up my next question. And I'm going to go over some line items, and I'll try to give you the pages in case anybody wants to follow along. So page 2, Fund 9, Chemicals, line item 09-1231-6139. When you're ready. I printed it out. I planted a lot of trees. Metric, a lot of trees. Okay. Underneath that it says, and I didn't go back, long searches. I just went with this budget and the fact that the administration does such a fantastic job displaying the last couple of years plus the anticipated cost to close out this fiscal year. And looks like chemicals for water production ran at 142K in 2022. It's estimated to close out at 119K in 2023. And in 2024, we're estimating that it's going to be 145K. So I'm not really sure the chemicals are the answer, but I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. So I went out on the Government Accountability's website and actually checked the price of chemicals that the U.S. government is estimating would be, and there is an increase that they've noticed over the last couple of years, a trend that may not be translating down as far as our local stuff is, but it is there. So that's actually pretty smart to not really lower that. I mean, you didn't really raise it up too much, but you didn't lower it either. Then, just because there's chemicals in sewer and sanitation, I went down and checked the wastewater, and there is a significant jump. Well, not really. 2022 is 94K, and this is line item 09-1245-6139. In 2023, it's going to close out at about 156K, so there's a definite increase there. But in 2024's budget, we're only asking for 144K. I'm not sure that's right. Maybe we should bump that up a few, or maybe, I don't know. It just seems like to me that chemicals isn't quite as big an issue as maybe everybody thought, but it does sound like it's coming. So that's just the way I'm looking at it. Now onwards. I have a question on page 5 of 22. Administration offices is the header. It's 01-1091-6192 for the CLIN or line item, depending on how it's done here. City buildings, water, and sewer. Looks pretty consistent. I'm not doubting that, but that is an expense, and it comes out of the general fund, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm not doubting that one bit. PD fuel. I want to shift to Fund 9. And this is in the same topic, pages 1 through 6. Chemical expenses we already covered, but underneath, on page 2 of 6, underneath CLIN 09-1231-6193, I see an expense for city buildings, water, and sewer of an anticipated $158,000. I looked through the rest of the city departments, and that the administration was the only one that mentioned that there was an expense for water. And there's a sewer one too, for sewer treatment, if you want to shift over and take a look at it. And that's on the wastewater treatment. And that's 09-1245-6193. And that's for basically, let's just call it $130,000, $129,900. Those are expenses,
Yes.
so those should be paid for by something.
That's the water used by either the water plant or wastewater plant to operate. They are metered and they pay the bill just as every homeowner and every business does.
But it says city buildings.
Both plants are city buildings.
Right, that's it? That's the only two buildings?
That's, there are some ancillary office buildings and stuff on the compound, especially of the wastewater plant. And the water plant has the solids handling facility there as well. But those are nominal compared to, they're a nominal part of that total dollar amount.
And where on the,
In addition to that, then we also have, with the odor control systems, we actually have water that
pump
goes in
stations, yes.
at the pumping stations to quell
remember
that.
that odor control
So
system?
those would all fall under Fund 9. The administrative water sewer costs would be, like for this building and the Department of Public Works building, the Star Center and so forth, Opera
Right.
House.
Okay. So where is that revenue in,
It's in the water revenue as well for the water sewer side.
where is it?
It's in the regular water revenue line items, page 1 of 6.
I'm on page 1 of 6.
Yes.
What line item, please?
It will be in 2 different line items. Well, actually, no, it'll be in 1. It'll be in 1209, 4441. Which is the second line item on the
That'd
page.
be, that's just wrapped up into there, that 300K.
Correct. They're treated just like any other user of the water plant, and we pay ourselves.
Right. I was hoping that was the answer.
That is the answer.
Who benefits from the city water production and the city water and sewage on them line items I mentioned? Is that just the city, or is it the taxpayers?
It said
No,
nobody.
I didn't ask that. I said,
Who benefits is the enterprise fund itself. It pays itself. We have to.
Right.
Be 100% self-sufficient. There is no benefit to individual people other than we get clean water and clean sewer
oh, so the taxpayers get clean water and sewer.
through the Fund 9, through the enterprise fund.
Yes, they all benefit.
And where did the taxpayers contribute their tax base at?
The water sewer ratepayers pay that. We don't charge a tax for water sewer, it's as an
Pay a fee.
enterprise fund. Yes.
I would like to, I think that needs to be revisited by council. I think that 280K should be coming out of Fund 1. I think I remember hearing this from Joe Kay at one time, something very similar. I think if it benefits the citizens, it should be paid out of Fund 1. I don't think it should be a one-for-one transfer from Fund 9.
Well, I'm
It's
not
up to you
sure I
all to
under-
decide. I'm just merely stating, I am not the smartest person in this room, but I can see a discussion point for that being out of Fund 1,
I'm
instead of a Fund 9, one-to-one.
the only thing I can tell you is very straightforward. That's the water used to either create the water or treat the wastewater. The beneficiary of those are the people who use the water sewer system, not the taxpayers. They're two completely separate entities.
Well, the taxpayers don't use the water and sewer system?
Only if they're living in town and
To
using
create
it
the
as
water?
the ratepayer, and they're only
Well,
paying
I
for
do
the
live in
water they
town.
use.
I do live in town, and I am using the water and the sewer.
But the only thing you pay for the water as the resident of the building. None of your tax dollars goes to creating the water. That's what Council President was alluding to. As an enterprise fund, it has got to be self-sufficient.
But this
and
is
used
for
on its
city
customers.
buildings.
That is correct. Now, only one for the city building is the one in Fund 1 where Fund 1 does pay
That's
now.
why I pointed that one out, George.
Yeah,
or Mr.
that's
Jordan.
for all the city buildings other
right.
than the operating plants themselves.
I'm thinking that this might, I'm not saying that you're doing it wrong. I'm thinking you may want to reevaluate these specific line items. The Water and Sewer Fund needs some help, and I don't agree with how this legally, it's not working out in my mind. I think there's a justification for moving these line items to be paid for by the general fund. That's my only point.
Here's what I think where you're going. Joe Kay had had a discussion on a number of years saying that anything that was public safety, the fire hydrants, any water that flowed through the fire hydrants should come out of Fund 1 and not come out of Fund 9.
He did.
That's what I think when you were saying, when you were kind of referenced back to Joe Kay.
Something similar.
That was the case. The counter to that is the fire hydrants, although they are used for public safety, no one will question that. The infrastructure for all that, the maintenance for all that comes out of Fund 9. So anything that's used out of that, that expense would come out of Fund 9. So to your point, I think what I'm hearing you say is there's certain Fund 1 expenses that should be expensed, or certain Fund 1 expenses should be funded out of Fund 1 and not out of Fund 9. That's the discussion that the Water Sewer Commission has had for a number of years, and at the end of each review cycle, there's not a strong enough argument to make the change. If you make the change there, then there's going to have to be sort of a recalibration of what then you would reallocate expenses from previous years from inception to try to balance it out. And quite frankly, the benefit doesn't.
I'm not saying going back. I'm saying going forward.
But there's infrastructure that has been paid for. And so, I mean, you have to reconcile that piece of it. And that's where I think Joe always gave up on the argument when you started doing these reconciliations to make everything start from a certain point that's equitable. Then that's sort of when it just kind of died on the vine, I would say. But I don't know that the current commission this year, that was even a point of discussion. I don't recall.
I don't believe it was.
Yeah.
And I will answer that question. This is the first year it has not been a bone of contention. The last 7 years, it has come up. But this year, it did not. With everything else we had going on, that did not. The biggest thing we talked about was the fact that Fund 9 is an enterprise fund. As an enterprise fund, as much as we hated to say it, we had to raise the rates in order to cover our expenses. It's not a tax thing. It's nothing we can do with taxes. Fund 9 is an independent fund, and it had to raise its rates to make ends meet. We haven't borrowed money in many years from Fund 1. We used to have to take a loan. So that stopped, I think, in 2019, where Fund 9 did not have to borrow and then pay back Fund 1. George, if you can verify that.
I believe it was 19, yes.
So,
I think you are correct. I remember that.
so like I said, so I mean, as a taxpayer myself as a Fund 9 user, I don't want to see my rates go up either. So, but it was just what we had to do in order to make sure Fund 9 stayed in the black and was not trying to borrow money from Fund 1, which we ended up having to pay back anyway.
I would like that as well. I just don't think, I think there's some ground to be looked at. And I would encourage Water and Sewer Commission and city, and of course the mayor, and maybe our legal officer and administration. I get that it's tough. And Joe Kay is probably one of the wisest people I've ever met. But at the same point, this is one of the best and smartest groups I've ever spoke to. That's why I typically ask questions more than anything. I mean, I spent a month looking over the mayor's budget, and it's a good budget. I like it. These are just things that came up that I'm like, And the person with 2 master's degree was like, well, if these are your concerns, let's line them out so that you can ask. And that's why I'm here. I think that there's room to improve Fund 9 standing. but I think it has to be dealt with. As my buddy Chris said, when they were talking about rates a few years back to fix the capital infrastructure and the pipes and everything in Havre de Grace, he's like, I'm tired of kicking this can down the road. Tell them we support it. And if changes need to be made, then this is the group to do it. And if not this group, there's a couple of new people coming in, but Joe Kay is not gonna speak anymore on stuff like this, I don't believe. And I think, I don't know. I was surprised it didn't come up, Councilmember Martin. But I do know it was a really busy year, and there's some really strong people on that commission. So I would like to encourage you all to maybe push it a little bit further. See where it lands. Please, and thank you so much. You guys, it's great being all your personal friends and saying hi to you every time I see you in public. It truly is. Then tracking down the chief to tell her I love the new barriers. Carrie was showing me all about them because she's been to a lot more desert regions than me. And frankly, we don't need barriers on submarines like that. So at first I was like, wow, those are expensive barriers. Then Carrie showed them to me. Then she went over all the little details, and I was like, ooh, this is exciting. Very nice purchase, by the way. Good job from the city council. I think there was a referendum to change something around. I think Jason was speaking about it, moving money so that could be bought. So that was a good buy. I like them. The fact that it could take out a Dodge Ram 1500 engine block if you try to drive over it. Very cool. Anyways, thank you so much tonight. I'm sorry we're the only two here, but know that we really appreciate what you guys are doing, and you guys would have been here anyway, so thank you for putting up with me.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to speak? Yes, ma'am. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Carrie Parsons, Seago Street, Havre de Grace, Maryland. Regarding the water and sewer, while I do appreciate the answers and why, I'm just wondering if maybe we could potentially in the future look at all the city buildings and potentially see and track in each inside the line of how much they are costing the citizens, because we have to cover the Star Center, this building, police department, all of them, for water and sewer. Where's the bill? What's the actual? I question the 32K. It's just me. I look at the stadium, now the Star Center, all of our restrooms, public restrooms around here, the marinas, because they say pump out and so on and so forth. And just maybe moving forward to give us an appreciation of what is not part of our own bill, maybe. That's the only recommendation that I have, and request maybe moving forward if it's possible with the Water Sewer Commission. But thank you very kindly, Mayor. I appreciate you, Council President. See you all on Monday next week.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? Without any further comments from the public or the council, time is now 6:24. I now close the public hearing on ordinance 1108. Council, to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by the council president, second by Councilmember Martin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to adjourn the May 8th, 2023 public hearing on ordinance 1107, 1108 carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Thank you very much.